implementing these 5 principles into my life changed everything for me. I went from dreading New Year's, looking back on that same year, to now loving New Year because I can look back on the year and be happy with the progress I've made. Welcome to the Remastery show with me, Sam Williams. Society is unhappy, unhealthy, and unfulfilled. I share the lessons I've learned and the mistakes I've made, trying to live the opposite path. I'm going to share a quick story with you from a few years back. It was New Year's Day. I was tidying out one of the drawers in my house and I stumbled across this old journal, which I'd written a bunch of goals and plans that I'd made of how I was going to change my life and all these different things. And I used to write this all the time. I used to make so many plans. I used to write goals and I used to get all fired up, watch these inspirational videos and think, this is it, this is me. But I read this journal and my heart sank because I scanned the goals to see the same few unachieved goals that I'd had for years. It was things like run a marathon, start a business, hold a 30-second LSIT, and all these things, all to do with like health and wealth and relationships. I was just looking down the list at all these goals that I still hadn't achieved. And New Year's Day became my least favorite day of the year, essentially, because every New Year's I would look back on the previous year at the same year that I'd repeated of my life not changing and all the repeated goals that I'd made and no action taken. My life was in the exact same place as it was the year before, just on repeat that same year. And my biggest problem was setting goals with a rough plan and never taking action on it. And it's the same reason why 96% of New Year's resolutions are never achieved, because people make all these grand plans. They might say, I'm going to break this habit, or I'm going to build this habit, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But no concrete plan and no kind of guidance on how to get there, essentially. That's why gyms are empty in February. In March, there's countless business plans that went unrealized before they could even get off the ground. Everything changed for me when I started implementing the 5 principles that I'll go through today. These are the same principles that I use with clients to help them go from idle goal setters to taking life-changing action. And actually implementing these 5 principles into my life changed everything for me. I went from dreading New Year's, looking back on that same year, to now loving New Year because I can look back on the year and be happy with the progress I've made that year. The thing is, 6 months of consistent work is all you need to transform your life. You don't need years and years of progress. Honestly, if you break a few bad habits and you build a few good habits, in 6 months, your life will be unrecognizable. This new year, remember these 5 principles to change your life in 6 months. Principle number 1 is no excuses. So etch this statement into your mind. If someone else has achieved it, so can you. What that means is, if there is someone in your situation or worse that has achieved the goal that you want to achieve, there's no reason why you can't either. And when I say someone in your situation or worse, there is always someone in your situation or worse that has achieved the goal. If I take my own life as an example at the moment, I've recently had a baby. This has completely flipped my routine on its head. I've gone from having specific time every morning to do my work and exercise and this, that, and the other, to having other responsibilities. I can't just focus on myself now. And I noticed myself making a lot of excuses about how I didn't have time to do that, or I was tired because the baby didn't sleep, or this, that, and the other, all these different things. And then I thought to myself, is there someone that has had a baby or had a new baby or more kids and been able to build a business, been able to train for a 100-mile race, been able to work a 9 to 5 alongside all these? Of course there is. There's always someone. So then I thought, there's no reason why I can't do it as well. This squashes any excuse you can have, any excuse you can make. If you say, I don't have time to do it, just think, is there someone that has been in your exact situation saying that could have used the excuse of, I don't have time, but has still found the time to do it? Of course there is. And I like to think of people that have achieved amazing things despite certain, I guess, circumstances that could have held them back. So, for example, there's Fiona Oakes, who is an ultra runner. She's got multiple records, including the fastest time to run a marathon in every single continent, including Antarctica. She's got multiple records. Fiona Oakes has one kneecap. When she was a teenager, her knees disintegrated because of a condition she had. The doctors said that she would probably or potentially never walk again, let alone run marathons. And not only that, but run marathons and ultra marathons in places like Antarctica with the snow. And she's completed marathons in the Sahara Desert, which, if you understand your kneecap is what stabilizes your leg. Running downhill on sand and snow would be incredibly hard without a kneecap because you have nothing to stabilize you. She has done that and she has set records in that. Or there's also Kyle Maynard that has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, who has no arms and no legs, which is absolutely insane. But remembering these people, you're able to squash any excuses and realize that if someone else has achieved what I want to achieve, there's no reason why I can't either. Principle number 2 is process over outcome. So everyone has the same goals. Goals aren't what make you successful. It's following the right process that makes you successful. So New Year's resolutions are essentially goals. They are good for a rough direction and nothing else. If you would imagine you've got a sat nav and you put the destination in the sat nav and it shows you the destination, but it doesn't tell you how to get there, how likely do you think that would be that you would reach that destination? Probably pretty unlikely. I mean, you could drive aimlessly and you may reach the destination, very unlikely, but chances are you won't get them. That's exactly the same as setting goals without any kind of plan to get there. The idea of a goal, you can set a goal and then forget it. Set the goal as a rough direction and then concentrate on asking yourself this question: what actions repeated for 1,000 days will bring me closer to the person I want to become? So a good test for this is thinking about all the habits or the actions that you took yesterday. Multiply them by 1,000 days. So that's just under 3 years. Are you closer to the goal that you want to achieve or the person you want to become, or are you further away? That will give you a good idea of where you are currently. And then the idea is that you want to work towards a process that where you can do that 1,000-day test. You can list the habits or the actions that you've done yesterday. You can multiply them by 1,000 and you realize that you are living the life that you want to live. You are the person you want to become. Complete these daily actions long enough and achieving the goal becomes inevitable. And you can start using the process and the actions as the goal. So the goal is just to complete those each day. The goal is not the goal itself. The goal is to do the action, and the end outcome that you want will come anyway. It will be inevitable. Principle number 3 is to make change simple. Behavior change as hard as it is without making it any harder for yourself. Let's say your New Year's resolution is to lose 20 pounds. What a lot of people do in January is they'll hit the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, an hour at a time. They'll try and 180 their diet, and they'll cut out all processed foods. They'll start eating salads for every meal or whatever it is. But eventually they'll burn out, and February comes, they don't hit the gym, they miss a workout because they can't get to the gym or whatever it is, and they start eating snacks, and they eventually drop off and end up exactly where they were before. You need to make change as simple as you can possibly make it. With the example that I just used, it might be that you just aim to do a minute of exercise every day, and you aim to replace one sugary snack with some fruit just once a day. So you're exercising a minute a day and you're replacing one sugary snack with some fruit once a day. That's it. And you just repeat that every single day, and that you build consistency before you ramp it up. You want to ask yourself, how can I make it so easy it seems stupid not to do it? The reason for this, it will seem stupid to start with. I felt pathetic when I was doing a push-up a day at the start. It felt like nothing. Push-up a day wasn't going to get me strong. It wasn't going to get me healthy or whatever it was. But eventually that push-up, once you become consistent with it and you ramp it up, it turns into more. So for me, I built that exercise habit to start with, and that's turned into completing multiple ultramarathons. But if I started at the start with trying to run multiple miles a week or multiple hours a week, I would have fallen off straight away. The only reason I was able to do it is because I made it so easy at the start that it was impossible for me to say no. I woke up, I did the push-up, and I was done. And then I moved on to 2 push-ups, then 3. And then it slowly built from there. So I built the consistency, then I ramped it up. That's the idea. You want to start so simple, it seems stupid not to do it. Build that consistency, then ramp it up. Principle number 4 is progress, not perfection. The biggest reason I see people fall off with their habits or changing stuff or whatever it is because they let one bad day turn into a week or a month. How many times have you broken a diet for a meal or missed a workout and said, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or oh, I'll start again on Monday? The amount of times people will break a small part of it or move out of line one tiny bit, and then let that one tiny mess up turn into a day messed up, turn into 2 days, turn into a week, turn into a month. And then eventually they've just fallen off the wagon completely. A key phrase I try and drill into my clients is, it doesn't matter how many times you fall off the wagon. It matters how quickly you get back on. The idea is not to be perfect. It's not to never fall off. You will always have bad days. You will always fuck up. That doesn't matter. What matters is how quickly you get back on. If you messed up once, who cares? Get back to it as soon as you can. The main thing that you should be asking is, am I heading in an upwards trajectory? Take note of your previous month. Has this month been better than last month? Or has this half of the year been better than the last? Or this quarter been better than the last? The idea is that you're always headed in an upwards trajectory. And you may fall off slightly, and the road won't just look like that. It may be up and down, or it will be up and down. But the idea is that you're learning from each mess up. And it might be that you fall off the wagon for a month to start with. Maybe you're doing that now. You fall off for a month and then you get back on. You fall off for a month, you get back on. And then it might be that that month then turns into 2 weeks and you fall off, 2 weeks pass and then you get back on. And then 2 weeks turns into a week turns into a day, until eventually you can accidentally slip up one little habit. Maybe you missed a workout in the morning or whatever it is, but you just get back to it the same day and you realize that it doesn't matter. I messed up. Who cares? Let's get back to it. Remember, it doesn't matter how many times you fall off the wagon. It matters how quickly you get back on it. And then finally, principle number 5 is to progressively overload your days. As I was saying before, the idea is to build that consistency. That's the main goal to start with. And then once you've built that consistency, you can start overloading your days. How can I make today better than yesterday? It might be that you add an extra healthy meal in, or an extra piece of fruit, or a few extra pages read, or slightly longer workout, or whatever it is. You just add a tiny bit each day and you start progressively overloading each day. Do this on a long enough time horizon and you'll create life-changing results. If we make it simple and progressively overload your days together, it's good to think of if you were to first walk into a gym, you wouldn't just walk in and without doing any kind of exercise at all and try and pick up 200 kilos off the floor or whatever it is. That just wouldn't work. So the idea is that you'd step into the gym and you'd lift that tiny weight that you were able to lift then, and then each gym session you would increase that weight or increase the reps, and that progressive overload is what builds the strength. It's the same with habits. You start off tiny and you lift that 10 kilogram weight, 5 kilogram weight. You have that one healthy meal, you exercise for a minute, whatever it is. And then you progressively overload each day. You do slightly more, and you build that consistency first, and then you build up. And eventually you're doing things that you find absolutely crazy that you never thought was possible. Using the example I used before with my journey, I started off with a single push-up, and then I built to 2, and then 3, and then 4. And I built that consistency and then moved on to the running. And then fast forward to now when I'm running the ultra marathons, but I couldn't have started with those ultra marathons. It had to build up gradually. So build that consistency, then progressively overload your days. So this year, remember those 5 principles when you're setting your New Year's resolution, and you'll make sure that you actually achieve it this year. So they are: principle number 1, no excuses. If someone else has achieved it, so can I. Principle number 2, process over outcome. What actions repeated for 1,000 days will bring me closer to the person I want to become. Principle number 3, make change simple. How can I make it so simple it seems stupid not to do it? Principle number 4, progress, not perfection. It doesn't matter how many times you fall off the wagon. It matters how quickly you get back on. And finally, principle number 5, progressively overload your days. So once you build that consistency, how can I make today better than yesterday? Thank you very much for listening. My name's Sam Williams. This has been the Remastery Show. See you next time.